To all you celebrants of our 100th anniversary of Gallia Country, we bid you welcome. Before we get into the festivities of the day, I have an announcement for all you fine folks with a sweet tooth. Whoa. Immediately after the fireworks, we have a whole barrel of molasses ready for you. It has been said...
I'm trying to write down what the judge is saying.
Excuse me, folks.
Make a history of your wife has been bothering me. I'm just trying to write down...
Young man, what is your difficulty?
Your Honor, I want to be a writer, but I can see nor hear a doggone thing from all the way back here.
Well, step right up here, Master... What is your name?
McIntyre, sir. They call me on.
Oh, McIntyre. You must be the grandson of Joanne McIntyre over on Court Street. So you want to be a writer. Is this some of your writing?
Oh, it's not much, just some jottings.
Master McIntyre, this looks pretty good to me. How about reading it to the crowd?
Gee, Your Honor, nobody ever grew famous in a hurry. I am. Mr. Martin, the policeman, let us loose from the gray walls of Gallipolis, Calabrese.
Oh.
Ned Delto, Alfred Reisman, Harry Maxon, yours truly, and Henry Charrington, the Anglo-Saxon. Was at our Sunday school picnic. We swam in the Raw, while the girls played on the saucy seesaw. Said Miss Lumpton quite sternly, "Before you all eat, you must go to the river, wash cleanly your feet." To this harsh command, we quickly did yield. We played blind man's buff in the cow pasture field.
Such talent and interest at your age is a sure sign of genius. Stand right over here and write to your heart's content. It has been said that ceremonies are devices of wise men to keep fools at a distance. But not so today. Gather closer in order that we might convey to you the story of this great land, its pioneers who were too busy fighting, building, and exploring to record their own history. In 1770, when George Washington stood just across the river on the Point, proclaiming that to be the new American capital, the whole Northwest Territory was included in these plans, which would have made our Gallia country the beautiful outskirts. Why, brave men have walked these shores. Mad Anthony Wayne, Lafayette, George Rogers Clark, Sam Vinton, Daniel Boone, Colonel Safford, Chief Cornstalk and his Shawnee, the brave French 500, and that gallant lady from Gallipolis, Anne Bailey.
What about John Hunt Morgan?
Yes, John Hunt Morgan. Folks, if your imagination can blot out the pastures and the fences, the roads and the farm buildings, cover this valley with forest, invite back the elk and the bear, then you will see what Boone saw.
Beaver pelt for your thoughts, Safford?
That log cabin down there must be over 100 years old. I put it back in the mid-1600s. Daniel, there wasn't a white man in these parts, except for Pierre Rene LaSalle. He explored the high river up to a falls back in 1669. Yeah, that'd just be about the age of that cabin, Boone.
Ah, Colonel, ain't you getting your mental exercise by jumping to conclusions? Oh, I agree, Louis Joliet's maps indicate LaSalle explored the river back in '69. It also inscribed is the fact that he didn't go back to Detroit for nearly one whole year later. But, Colonel, the Ohio River is 12 miles from here. Now, why in tarnation's anybody going to paddle a canoe all the way up yonder just to build a cabin?
Same reason we did. The wild game is plentiful. There's enough food and cover for them to get them through the hard winter months. And this hollow here, natural protection against those cold winter winds and the Shawnee tomahawk.
That makes sense. You know, I reckon that Frenchman probably would build himself a cozy cabin to hole up in instead of freezing his behind off in a windy rock house.
Yeah, it's logical.
That's logical, all right. You know, Safford, the Shawnee learned some logic to General Lewis back in that first skirmish of Point Pleasant back in '74. Of course, you was just a kid then. Do you know something, Colonel? Shawnee did us a favor then, because by the following spring at the battles of Lexington and Concord, the mistakes made at Point Pleasant taught the colonials how to fight like Indians. And that's how we won that revolution.
Didn't we win the Battle of Point Pleasant?
Not exactly. Oh, no. Look here. Now, you see, Chief Cornstalk and his band had formed at what is now Gallipolis. Now, Lewis and his men were across the river. Now, Cornstalk took Lewis by surprise, and after taunting him, why, he hightailed back across. The white forces eventually crossed the river and chased those Indians clean up into Scioto country. So you see, Safford, that first battle of the Revolution was fought right across the river in Virginia. But the conclusion of that battle was right here in this territory. But don't you ever tell a Bostonian that.
Yeah, I can see that wily Cornstalk and his braves giving Lewis's men a merry trace across the fort here. Up the great Indian warpath of Scioto country. Shawnee were suspected of being allies of that British hair-buyer Hamilton.
Oh, yeah, there's cozy, all right. You know, I hear tell Lord Dunmore gave Cornstalk a string of beads for Christmas. Yeah, and the old chief in return, he gave His Highness a buffalo robe. Yeah, painted on the inside of it was an eagle and a cake of soap, signifying that the buffalo was the emblem of strength, and the eagle of swiftness, and the soap was the purity of the British Empire.
That figures.
But thus said Cornstalk, British strong as buffalo, swift as eagle, and prefer to take bath while Indians fight his battle.
You must have heard that story from Burford. Well, if Cornstalk cavorting with that Lord Dunmore, he probably deserved to be chased out.
Oh, now, by thunder, he wasn't the only one chased off his lands. Here we was doing all the fighting. Those eastern stuff gowns were coming out here and flapping their political wings and taking our tomahawk claims away from us.
You're forgetting you're not the only one who was cheated by the land companies.
Oh, I reckon you're right. I got hornswoggled off my lands down in Kentucky. I wasn't the only one taken in by those foo-for-all land deals. Look at the French 500. They paid plenty for worthless deeds, but they seem to be paddling out of it, Safford.
Yeah.
Now, I tell you, I miss those hills of Kentucky. I wish I could go back.
I reckon you do.
The hills of my Kentucky with blue grass where shadows lie and folded in cathedral visions as silent winds go by. I dream of my Kentucky, and when my dreams have passed, phantoms of delight sweep over me. I see my homeland at last. I dream of that longwood castle resting by that stream. Kentucky, my own homestead. Kentucky, my own homestead.
So you're heading west?
Yes, sir, Colonel. I've been hankering to look at some Rockies for a long time.
So, have you ever been lost?
Lost? No. I reckon I ain't never been lost, Colonel. Well, I was bewildered once for 3 days. Listen.
Hold her, Newt, you lost-beard idiot. Come on, Johnny. Bag of clothes. Howdy, boy.
Look out, it's bird.
Don't bite me, you contrary wolf jackass. Now I know why that wolfman give him to me. I've already wore out 3 right-footed moccasins just to kicking him.
Oh, Burford.
I'm pale as a parsnip and drier than a water witch in July. Them gold-darn, green, google-eyed, tantalizing, overgrown tadpoles. I nearly dried up and blown away.
Whirling shades of sassafras. What are you talking about now?
Why, them frogs along Raccoon Creek. Here I was walking crotch deep in them itchweed, and they kept rawing me the whole afternoon. The thirstier I'd get, the more they'd croak. Rum, Burford. Rum, Burford. I tell you, it was enough to make a feller pitch a frothy fit. Just come from the forks of Muskingum.
Any signs of the Shawnee?
Nary a one. Must have took a shot for the North Country. But I did find me this Shawnee gal.
That figures.
There she was, lying on her back in the shallows of Raccoon Creek. 2 firm objects protruding above the water.
Burford.
She has the prettiest knees I ever gandered at.
No doubt you're spending all your time at Charlie's Tavern.
Reckon I have, but it's called King Charlie's Tavern now.
King Charlie?
Who's King Charlie?
Well, it's called that after what happened. Last week, he had himself quite a celebrity.
Who's that?
Louis Philippe of France.
Oh.
Came and asked for accommodations for the night. And him being a future king and all that, old fancy drawers with his pear-shaped head and his powdered periwig and his little green parasol, he started to complain to Charlie about the rabble-rousing customers and the turtle soup.
Yeah.
So Charlie said to him, "Your Royal Highness, ain't us colonials qualified to your qualifications?"
What'd he do?
And before you could say boo to a goose, he grabbed him to the seat of his britches and kicked him out the tavern door. Louis Philippe, future king of France, came here as a refugee. Complained that Charlie's accommodations were not what they ought to be. Charlie grabbed him by his royal neck, created quite a huzzah. Shoved him head first out the tavern door, kicked him in his repertoire.
Shoved him head first out the tavern door, kicked him in his je ne sais quoi.
Watch out, man. Almost found a stable with a rooster and a hen house.
Charlie is the frontier king with quite ribald behavior. Colonel of the militia, tax collector, and engine fighter. He runs the ferry at the forks and serves the tavern well, sir. He dances the gals till the early morn and rings the vesper bells, sir.
He danced with the gals till the early morn and rings the vesper bells. He rings the vesper bells.
that hilarious heist in the haunches, we all decided to celebrate. And I got higher than Franklin's kite.
No doubt.
One thing led to other. You know, they clamped me in the stocks for disturbing the peace, and it was awful. The bugs and the flies. Even the dogs and oxen wouldn't even look at me.
I can't blame them.
Of course, next day, being Sunday, they turned me loose and made me 10 services over at the Tavern church. And I got in more trouble before I even got in there.
How?
Well, this refined Baptist lady, she was bending over at the hitching post. And that ornery jackass of mine, he bit her.
Oh.
And you know, Safford, by the time I got his jaws pried open, all I found was a mouthful of pantaloons and a freckle. Then, they made me sit right in that brimstone corner. And that preacher, he was against everything except the Baptist church. His preaching ain't worth cracklings. He'd stand there and ladle out spiritual food for the Christians. Then he'd start preaching hellfire and damnation at me. You should have heard him. Sinner! Keep your eye on the middle of the road, because lying there in the weeds by that old roadside is that old devil, Rattlesnake. Suppose you wake up in the morning and find yourself dead. Where will you be heading? Down, 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 down to the depths of hell. You'll see the devil coming down the hill on a rattlejack. His horns like a bull ox, and his tail like a pitchfork, and you'll lie there thinking of all the evil things you did, like making your throat a thoroughfare for whiskey.
No doubt.
And walking serpentine for hours to come. Repent, I say, repent! I said to him, preacher, I got to appear here in court tomorrow, and some of these people might be jurymen, and they'd be prejudiced.
They'd be what?
Prejudiced. Old preach says, don't worry, brother. Remember, the good Lord will take care of you. I said, preacher, I know the Lord takes care of you and all that, but you see, he ain't on the jury.
Did you evade the stocks?
I got to thinking about what the preacher said, and I was kind of feared I'd get tommyhawked on the way here today, and then I'd be headed for the inferno. So I said to myself, Burford, for the first time in your life, you're going to go straight. You're going to tell the truth. The next morning, I sauntered into that tavern court, walked up to that bar of justice, and I said, Your Honor, I'm guilty. Old Judge Winfield looked down at me with his little pinchy-nosed glasses, and he says, Burford, you're a diabolical liar. You've never told the truth in your life. You're the worst liar in the territory. If you stand there and say you are guilty, then you must be innocent. Case dismissed.
I don't believe.
Don't you fellers ever make anything except beaver stew?
Well, the food is wild and pure. One's morals aren't easily corrupted.
Well, I sure would like to have a big bear steak and some kindle flaps. By the way, Daniel, did I ever tell you about the time I met George Washington over across the river on the point about 20 years ago?
No, I don't think I heard that one, Burf.
Why, me and old George, we'd lie and talk for hours on the banks of the Ohio.
Yeah, I reckon he did the talking and you did the lying.
Daniel, I'm getting wilderness fever. I'm gonna go to Gal Police tonight.
Fever? Safford, I reckon the only case of fever you have is that little French girl, Catherine Cameron. Young love fluttering on its silken wings.
Well, you know I haven't seen Kitty in weeks. You must admit she's a dainty dancer.
Yeah?
And a man may love without being a fool.
Oh, I reckon you're right, Colonel. But if I was you after the frolicking tonight, I don't think I'd peek in that looking glass. You going along, Burford?
Not by a jugful, I ain't.
Why?
And besides, the way them Frenchies are drinking and dying off, they ain't gonna be around too long anyway. You watch them Welsh. The way they're flatting down the Ohio, moving in the territory, getting thicker than flies at a church picnic. And the way they're working night and day, having big families, I van you'll see the day around here that if you throw a rock up in the air, chances are, if it comes down, it'll hit a Welshman. I never could figure out how these Welshmen can grub out a living on some of these poor hill farms. Why, Safford, the land is so poor that when a crow flies over, it has to carry its own lunch.
Burford, being English myself, I would like to know why you are so cozy with the Welsh. What do they have to offer, say, over the English or the French?
There's an old saying on my ma's side of the family. God must have made the Welsh, and the devil made the Dutch. Whoever made the French and English didn't make very much. Now you take a Welshman. He's easy to figure out. He's dependable. But about the time you think you got a French or an Englishman figured out, he slips around you and he's got you. With a Welshman, it's different. He's dependable, because you know from the very beginning that he's going to get the best of you.
Dano, you're half Welsh. I don't make it a connection.
Well, Colonel, my mother, she was a Morgan. She was a Northern Wales Welsh. Burford? He's renegade Welsh.
Well, you ain't getting me into Gallia Police and get Ed alive by them mosquitoes. I got a malfeasant theory about the French and their frog ponds.
Look out, Safford, here it comes.
Now, the mosquitoes, they feed on the French. And the frogs, they snap up the skeeters. And the French, them that ain't already up in the cemetery, they eat the frogs. Now, the skeeters and frogs, you see, they're breeding faster than the French because, you see, they don't get malaria. And of the three of them, the skeeters are having the most fun zingy-winging and zangy-wanging around half drunk because every time they bite into one of them Frenchies, one half of that blood is peach brandy.
What?
No wonder they dance every night on the village green. They have to keep the skeeters off them.
Burford, if you were ever introduced to a bar of soap, you'd be afraid of skeeters, too.
Mm-hmm. Well, you ain't getting Burford into one of them fancy dress balls on the village green. I don't mind a good jump up in the air hoedown once in a while, but I tell you, them dances on the village green is nothing but a trading post for flesh. And just between you and me and the honeybee tree, I prefer to do my buying in a more private place.
Yeah, like Raccoon Creek.
Why, them French females, they'd tempt old St. Peter himself with their fancy dresses shaying round like a wind-blowed haystack and their hair all piled up in high curls, to say nothing of their perfumery. My ma always said to me, Burf, don't fool around with them gals with the Frenchified smells, because first you'll sniff that perfume, then you'll be holding their hand, and the next thing you know, you'll be snapping their garter. Oh, my wife, she died, and I'm a winter. I spend my time upon the river, up and down the Ohio, pitched down to the falls below, land of the feather Chippewas, tell the prince of the Natchitoches, bodies of all creation along the Indian nation. Leather boots and wool stockings given to me for sunny Hopkins, underpants of pretty galoons, ditches in my trouser looms, swamp all day, drink all night, dance and went, womp and fight, your gizzard starts to quiver, stagger to the roaring river. Sonny asked to take a ride, said it wouldn't hurt her pride. She was so golden fat, we couldn't ride duet like that. Pharaoh's knees began to sag and he hawed and Braden began to nag. His innards tickle his liver, sploose we went in the roaring river. The Indian trails are hard on your feet for hauling whiskey and can't be beat. Reckon I'll suffer the ridicule, leading that Colonel Devil view. Or sooner or later you opens the crop, fills yourself with the land and thought. No better life can be made than hugging a jug in the shade.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you Daniel Boone, hunter of Kentucky and a great frontiersman. Daniel, because of all the wonderful times we've had together here in Gallia Country, we won't say goodbye, but happy hunting in the Rockies.
Oh, thank you, Colonel. I'll be thinking of you every time I get a grizzly by the tail. From County Gwinnett, me mother did spring to saddle her nest with a Scotch-Irish flag, while Morgans and Davies and Clancy's to bring a Welsh woman's wet and about to Japan. We dance in the middle, but breaks in the middle, and singing and being on Husky and Jump. So always the Devons and Germans and Flemings be down on board in a big bloody fun. The Welsh and the Irish bounced up from the floor to form the Scotch-Irish Welsh and ring. Root hammer or die, 10 reels or more, while Murphy and Murdoch started to sing. Oh, the devil was drinking and revel and keep and tracing and sing below. Stirring the patty and taking the daddy, marrying the ghost of the shillelagh-o. I'm leaving this country by flatboat and foot. The western lands of Louisiana. Of civilization, I don't give a hoot, just might as well be hanged from a tree.
So long, Daniel. I'll be with you in thought.
You wish very much to continue with your friends?
Yes. But I have other wishes as well.
These other wishes, will they come true?
That, my dear Catherine, depends on you. Have you missed me as much as I have missed you?
Since last we met in the summer, came gentle thoughts of thee, and charmed the lovely visions that cling ever close to me.
At the close of the 17th century, our Eastern American counterparts kept their noses to the grindstone, killing and Christianizing Indians, pitching horseshoes, and torturing and hanging old women for glowing witchery by order of their courts, these same people who immigrated to this land to escape persecution. More than 100 years after the Salem witch trials, Ohio had its one and only witch trial. And it took place right here in Gallia County with the noted Sam Vinton attempting to persecute.
Hear ye, hear ye. In the court of common pleas, Gal Pleas, Ohio, in the year of our Lord, 1823, the state of Ohio versus Abigail Church.
Gentlemen of the jury, the state will prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the defendant, Abigail Church, did, without fear of God before her eyes, give aid to Satan, the enemy of God and mankind, by consorting with witchcraft and fortune-telling. The state would like to call its first witness, Mr. Lemuel Llewellyn. That's Lemuel. Lemuel Llewellyn, then.
Raise your right hand.
Right, Lem.
Your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Lem has never told the truth.
Mr. Llewellyn, did you, on the night of April the 1st, 1823, seek the services of the defendant, Miss Abigail Church?
I did.
Did you pay her 25 cents for telling your fortune? Especially such advice about your girlfriend?
What? Yes, sir.
Your witness.
Mr. Llewellyn, when you sought the advice of this lovely fortune-teller, were you coerced to do so, or did you do it on your own initiative?
Well, it was my own idea.
Attaboy, Lem.
I wanted to find out if my girl would be willing to do some sparking with me.
Did you get your 25 cents worth?
Well, guys, yes, it was worth $25.
Will you please instruct the witness to explain to the court what he means by sparking?
Well, Your Honor, when it's late at night, the neighbors can see sparks coming from the chimney of a cabin. It usually means there's a young couple in that cabin doing some sparking. Yeah, Your Honor, didn't you ever try that?
You told him, Lamb. Attaboy, Lamb. Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
She needs 2 chairs.
Miss Lydia, you have stated that you can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the defendant, Abigail Church, is guilty of witchcraft. What evidence can you give the jury?
Well, everybody knows that if you stack a witch against the good book, the Bible always wins against them who fill their beds of abominations.
Amen.
Those daughters of Babylon, filled with their wines of iniquities, and the fan of the Lord is in his hand.
Amen, amen, brother. Miss Lydia, let us enlighten the jury as to your scale of justice.
What is that? What is that? That's the kid's teeter totter.
Now, Your Honor, if you instruct the defendant to straddle that end of the teeter-totter, we'll place the Bible on this end. And if the Bible teeters Abigail Church, then she's innocent. But if not, she's a witch.
Mr. Vinton, in this courtroom, we use the term sit astride, not sit astraddle.
Sit astride, then.
That judge pretty smart.
Wow.
truth, you witch woman, you!
Miss Lydia, is it not true that you were betrothed to a young man until he went to see the defendant, Abigail Church, to have his fortune told, and as a direct result, this young man went off and married another girl?
Well, yes.
Tell me, do you consider yourself a witch?
Me? Of course not.
What would happen if you were to straddle, sit astride, as Abigail's scale of justice calls it? Do you think a Bible would outweigh all of you? Your witness.
Gentlemen of the jury, Abigail Church has stirred up strife and diabolical happenings in this fair county. When night winds moan in the chimneys and specters of shadows fly, the mystic shrouds of demon clouds hover o'er the midnight sky. Honest maidens quail at the witch's wail. Wild wolves howl. Gentlemen of the jury, hear my plea. This is Abigail Church's low, low news. In city and country she sounds, a merchant of fortunes is found, filling her purses with clairvoyant curses of prophecy's fortune she tells. A filling her purses with clairvoyant curses of prophecy's fortune she tells. She's bewitched gal police, 'tis true, the paranoid parlez-vous. Paddled our rector with satanic nectar, he'll hang with her poisonous brew. Paddled our rector with satanic nectar, he'll hang with her poisonous brew.
Gentlemen of the jury, Ohio is an Indian word, meaning great. It is a land of visions and common sense. This great state should gladly pay 25 cents to the lovely Abigail Church for her foretelling of the glorious future that awaits the 17th state of the Union. Set Abigail Church free, and we'll all be free men and women.
Gentlemen of the jury, have you reached the verdict?
Take me out your eyes. There we go.
How do you find? Guilty or not guilty?
Tell him not guilty.
While Sam Vinton lost that case, there was still other important work for him to accomplish, as we will see later. By 1840, a new method of travel and transport of goods came to Ohio by a back-breaking effort. Canals were dug by men and mules. Then man, being the smarter of the two critters, turned the work over to the mule and sat back and enjoyed the ride.
Gee there, towpath mule, we'll soon be coming to the landing. There'll be forest
the break of day. Look alive now, easy now there. Towpath mule, listen to canal frogs, deep bass bassoon, singing from the bonny banks, with crickets fiddling to the moon. Whoa, whoa, ha, towpath mule. Bounce the lee bank, whipper-doo, whipper-day. You faithful old cuss, never make no fuss. Just haul that line till the judgment day. Just haul that line till the judgment day. Get on there, mule. Come on, we got to make Chillicothe. Get moving. Come on, you lop-eared mule, move it. Get up there.
Captain how soon till I reach Chillicothe?
Well, we should make Chillicothe about an hour, son. What's your destination?
Pleasant Valley to Adamsville. I understand it's a 2-day walk from the boat dock, but I don't mind. I've come a long way from Kidwelly in Wales. I'll be glad to get my feet on land again. Sir, how long have you been on the canal?
Well, I made my first trip down from Erie back in 1830. That'd make it 10 years now. But you know, I wouldn't trade my years on this canal for any piece of land. What might be your name?
Barrett, sir. Barrett Morgan.
Master Morgan, I seem to notice a wistful look in your eye. Are you homesick?
No, not homesick. Just anxious to see my new home. And my sweetheart. I haven't seen her for 2 years. When the land you sailed far away, we played at Kidwelly on Carmarthen Bay, riding with Welsh winds on soft Pebble Beach, gathering seashells, all we could reach. We'd watch the big ships go out to the sea. One day you left me for the new country. We'll soon be together forever, I know, in Pleasant Valley, southern Ohio. Stay me the country, for I'll be there. Summertime entangled with love in your hair, our joys and laughter, forever in thrills. Landed a Gwendolyn, goddess of the hills. Hey, it's Captain Knight!
Hello? children. Brought you some apples and some jawbreakers. And for good old Uncle Lucifer, my usual $1. You know, Scioto Valley has got to have the friendliest folk and the prettiest women of any place along this canal. And I'm a canaler, I ought to know. Canalers brawl from early morn, we haul from dusk till day. Along the banks, we mule our time away. Happy hauling hooligans from Ohio's frontier. Pirouette, coquette, rye, whiskey, ale, and beer down the Ohio. Canal, down the Ohio. Canal. You'll find it down. Cowhide shoes, and corduroy breeches. You're the gal that sews all the stations and step like Lil, and don't fetch the whiskey. It's your kiss that makes me so tipsy and one more time. Now you may shout and you may say, God save the King, but leave the Welsh
since first we loved. But the autumn's veil melt.
I'm a country cutie, my mama's pride and beauty, the siren of Centerville. Bewitching lady, they call me Sadie, from Adamsville to Oaky Hill. Every evening the boys I delight for a mug of lager beer and 50 cents a night, ecstatic cutie, beyond her color duty, the siren of Centerville. I've worked all over Gallia, way down to old Pocette, shedding sin and little bullskin when running off a bench, meandering to mud socks and poked upon some trot. I got a kick and dingy grip, but take what you thought. Just a classy lassie, burning sassy, the siren where the moon shines still. Limping for a living with my hair, she told, relaxing up and jack and shake and rattle my bones.
Good, honey.
Ah, good girl.
What a voice.
I'm a country cutie, a rootin' tootin' tootie, the siren of Centerville. Hanging round Honolulu was there I was misled. What I do at Waterloo is better left unsaid. Cuddling up the coldest, soon from the Middle West. I'm singing a tune of the bluebird saloon to get things off my chest. Just a classy lassie, bird and sassy, the siren where the moon shines still. Limping for a living with my piercing toes, relaxing up and jacks to shake and rattle my bones. I'm a country cutie, a rootin' tootin' tootie, the siren of
Hear ye, hear ye. I just got a dispatch from the U.S. Post Office.
Well, let's hear it, Flanagan.
Your
application.
application for a post office is turned down herewith, since there's already an Ohio post office by the same name of Adamsville near Cambridge. We hereby advise you to submit another I know what it is. Application under the name Adamsville, deleting, whatever that means. One of the L's. Adams, file. What are we gonna do about this, fellas?
If we knock the L out of Adamsville, we'll be living in Adams file. Dirty shame, what a sinful name, our heritage to defile. So why should we incorporate into our barbarous state? Turn Congressional Post Office the way rot. Why should we incorporate into a corporate state? But for buttons and presses and news, what into houses and my
Hey, Beer Flanagan.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen Evan Welch lately?
Evan Welch. You know, he came in here last week and had himself a few drinks. And when he got home, he got a crying jag on. Well, his wife heard him and came out to see what was the matter. And there was old Evan just a-sobbing away. I'm just a briar in the church. I'm just a briar in the church. She says to him, Evan, you ain't neither no briar. You are an elder. Oh. He turns around, looks at her, and says, well, I knowed it was a weed of some kind.
Almost quit. Down his shirt. Oh my God.
God. I'll drink to that boy.
He did it, didn't he?
2 hours late. So that never get here. I'd have thought a bitch of state for them Presbyterian church woman.
What'd you do? Stop and give him a demonstration?
This here's a Shakespeare actor heading for the Jackson Opera House. Sure does use some fancy words.
Sure is fancy looking, too.
Has not old custom made this life more sweet than that of painted pomp? Are not these woods more free from peril than the envious court? And this our life, exempt from public harm, finds tongues in trees, books in running brooks, sermons in stones, and good in everything. Provide me with a beer.
Oh, I sure do talk pretty.
Pray tell, what is that edifice?
Why, that's our club. Raccoon Creek Camels Club.
Camel's Club? Dost thou see yonder cloud that's almost in shape of a camel? By the mass, it's like a camel indeed.
Well, you see, Mr. Actor, we call it the Raccoon Creek Camels Club because camels go for days without a drink of water. Would you like to join? All you gotta do is buy a round of drinks, and that makes you a life member. Drink. Well, come, all you do is kneel out, come on, right? Kneel on, right here.
Lean on, McDuff.
Star Sapphire Egypt. Old town on Raccoon Creek, take this brother to the west. The star sapphire of Egypt's valley wick. The shining Sistra. I forgets the rest.
Oh, Shakespeare.
I have drunk and seen this fighter.
more into the breach. Drinks for every man.
Come in. Gentlemen, I'm your congressman from this district, and I'm on my way up to Columbus, Ohio for the Whig Convention, where, I assure you, we will launch Ohio for William Henry Harrison to be the next president of these United States.
William Henry Harrison, the Whig, took a long and lusty swig. Martin Van Buren's envied out in the White House pantry, eating sauerkraut. Tippity-canoe! Tippity-canoe!
Mr. Vinton, you can bet your last shin plaster and all your Wildcat paper money that the Adamsville Camels Club and the Mad Raccoon Creek Chappers are all vote for old Tip. Now, while they're changing horses,
I'll drink that.
how about tell us about the part you had in that Ohio-Michigander war back 5 years ago?
Well, fellas, the ordinance of 1787 more or less gave Michigan Territory the 8 miles of land below Toledo. This Erie War, as we call it, was more political than military. Ohio claimed that the first maps had been inaccurate concerning the southern point of Lake Michigan. On the other hand, Michigan complained there had been no complaints up to this time. A rumor prompted Governor Mason of Michigan to send troops through Toledo 8 miles south, a move which proved to be his undoing. President Andrew Jackson was anxious to settle the issue without antagonizing Ohio, since the presidential election was near. Michigan was a territory and had no vote.
Good old Hickory.
An incident occurred in the spring of 1835, when the Ohio militia under General Bell met the Michigan militia under General Brown.
Ohio Company, halt. At ease, men.
You can't do that. Under whose authority do you claim this territory?
My own. And Sam Vinton, the House of Representatives, and by Tom Ewing of the U.S. Senate, President Andrew Jackson, and the Lord God Almighty. Now, do you need a higher authority than that?
What about the ordinance of 1787?
I didn't sign it.
He didn't even sign it.
Besides, would you explain to me how they're ever going to survey the bottom of Lake Erie? Why, they'd have to hire pallbearers from Venice to do the surveying. Now, where'd you people from up north recruit those Indians?
Michilimackinac.
Yeah, they look like Ohio Indians to me. Gather round, all you faithful Buckeyes. Michiganders are now on the loose. We'll pluck out all their pin feathers and cook their Michigoose. Governor Mason, he marched through Toledo, taking prisoners, now that be a fact, of chickens, watermelons, and Major Stickney. I deem that a darn rude act.
Monrovians, beware of Ohio. Sorta expecting the worst. Watching for sharpshooting Buckeye behind every blackberry bush. We'll fight to the line of Old Fulton, to the south of Old Maumee Bay. Western reserves our territory. It's going to be a Wolverine's day.
From the hallowed halls of Congress, Sam Vinton and Ewing's our men. But as for John Quincy Adams,
He can't referee worth a damn.
Worth a damn.
So heist yourself north, all ye Wolverines, to the 6140 degree. We'll celebrate Toledo Harbor, our homecoming victory. By the way, in spite of all your new recruits, how about a game of Indian Bagataway?
Sure be shooting at each other. Bring on your militia. We'll take that goal.
Though I have disagreed with President Jackson from time to time, being a Buckeye, I must say I was pleased when he endorsed an Ohio position on this matter in July of 1835.
Stagecoach leaving for Jackson, Centerville, Chillicothe, and Columbus, Ohio.
I'll wait for that. Well, fellows, thank you for your support, and I'll be seeing you after Harrison's nomination.
Tippy-canoe
and Tyler too. Tippy-canoe and Tyler too.
Tippy-canoe and Shakespeare too.
Hey, Vine. Do you know a Salathiel?
Now, what's his name?
Who?
What, the guy's name he just asked me.
Never heard of him.
Hey, get him, Will! Get him, Will! Go, get him, Will! Go, get him, Will!
have been so fortunate to win such virgin souls as us. We, who stay home every night, waiting for you to pour yourself into the front door.
Salvation and water are what you need.
Well, lady, water is more dangerous than liquor.
Water's more dangerous than liquor?
That's right.
Would you in your drunken stupor care to explain that?
Well, I've been drinking here all my life, and I ain't dead yet. But I nearly drowned twice in Raccoon Creek. Attaboy, Barney.
Shush, everybody. You men are all farmers here. Now, suppose you answer me this one. Suppose I brought a tub of water here and placed a tub of whiskey on the floor of this saloon, and you brought a mule in here. Which one of the two would he drink?
Why, he'd drink the water, of course.
Exactly. And why would he drink that water?
Because he's an ass.
So crazy, you old Flanagan. And if you think I'm weak just because I'm a woman, you just grin one more time. Why, I've had to carry that good-for-nothing husband of mine home nearly every night. And he weighs over 200 pounds. Avoirdupois.
And who in tarnation might you be?
We are the troops of furies against the drunkard's will.
Broke in 1863. Gallia Country was torn by two sympathies. Many young men crossed the river to join the Confederacy. Gallipolis found its village green an armed encampment filled with Union soldiers. Husbands left home for the glories of a war that most would live to regret. A man by the name of John Hunt Morgan and his Confederate raiders brought the war to our very doorstep.
Gwendolyn, with General Hobson on his heels,
We may catch John Martin by harvest time. They say he's coming this way. This is a mad game of war. General Morgan is my kin, yet I must go after him.
Yes, that vulture war. But its pangs and fears are borne by the women, who never even see the battlefront. Farah, it's been 10 years since first we met here at our trysting place, the willowy creek that turns the old mill.
Yes, sir. You gathered all the men in town?
Yes, sir. This is every able-bodied man in town, sir.
Very good.
We ain't done.
Post a guard on until the morning. General Morgan will be staying at the Isham House, should anything arise.
I wish I was in Dixie
sing one we all know, Tenting Tonight.
All right.
Tenting tonight, tenting tonight, tenting on the old campground. We're tenting tonight on the old campground. Give us a song to cheer our weary hearts, a song of home and friends we love so dear. Many are the hearts that are weary tonight, wishing for the war to cease. Many are the hearts that are looking for the right to see the dawn of peace. Tending tonight, tending tonight, tending on the old campground. Tending tonight, tending tonight, tending on the old
Well, hello there, pretty little gal. What's your name?
Cornelia Hoffman, soldier boy. I brought you some coffee. It ain't real coffee, what with the war and all.
Just how long you gonna be around here, you pretty little thing?
Well... After sunset, I'll come down and dance old Tucker round and busk myself right out of my gown. Good evening, General Morgan. Coffee's 27 cents a pound, chicory grows free. Dinner's not free. Seasons on the stage are more, but prices on begun to soar. Chicory cooks the coffee. Hard times this war, baby.
Get you down the chicory coffee.
Chicory cook the coffee.
Jackson County chicory coffee. Yo!
See y'all later, boys.
All right, boys, the fun's over with. Let's see those valuables. Let's see the inside of those pockets.
let's hear that chorus once again from you fine whelps from Nebo and 10 Roads.
When the roll is called up yonder, 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 I'll be there.
Hallelujah. Amen, amen. Ladies and gentlemen, and especially you veterans of the blue and the gray, welcome to our first bean dinner to show our appreciation for you who have fought for the cause. Today's menu will be strange only to those of us who missed that war. That staple of beans, hardtack, and black coffee. So enter into the festivities with gladness. This befitting occasion, on this very ground where a new Baptist college will soon be erected. The children have prepared some entertainment for us. After the war between the states,
come the great industrial evolution of steel making, brought about by the Kentuckian William Kelly and Lawrence County's John Campbell. And the wheels of progress turned. Farm boys left the farm for the city life, sowing their wild oats mixed with rye in those timid, tiny saloons which gave rise to such luxurious, tempestuous establishments as Roxy's Hall of Novelty, aptly named to impress the respectable Gallipolis citizens who otherwise would never have countenanced its true title. And thus was begun the foundation of a Victorian French city. Roxy's on the banks of the Ohio, where the tide rose in foaming, bubbling lappets, and the sun sparkled on the mosaic of her stained glass windows.
Dancing pipons, petticoats et pants, tout de suite ton amour est passé. Déjà. Spice and a pinch of sin, rum and a bottle of gin, like the yo-ho-ho girls from the Admiral Benbow. Land of Southern Ohio, Bob, Welshman, Dutch, and a French both live a life with a wife quite subdued, curvaceous and foxy, adventurous and Roxy, coquettes with their virtues, and the dance she does is lewd.
diphthongs, hiss, hiss, Gallipolis. Diphthongs will e'er increase our heritage and peace. We are a Gallipolis. One day there came a preacher down from Riverside, Eureka, singing hymns of praise, love, and winter strife. And in spite of all the booing, he continued his God-doing, and today I am his faithful loving wife. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Southeastern Ohio is lovely. We're sitting in a valley on the 1,100-acre farm of Bob Evans in Rio Grande, Ohio. Bob Evans is I suppose, our host. He provides us with the location, and then we do the rest. The set you see here is a chosen series of segments or pieces of locations for our scenes in history. Each one has its own story. Each one has its own historic credibility.
Director Greg Miller talks about Gallia Country and how it all happened.
7 years ago, a group was formed called the Gallia Dramatic Arts Society. Among its goals was to create an outlet for live performance for the area, and the primary project of that was Gallia Country, the outdoor pageant, and they've been functioning on that basis ever since, recently enlarging to a wintertime little theater activity. The people involved are regular everyday folk. They don't have any theater background whatsoever. Many of them are involved in church choirs, a few of them involved in high school type drama activities, but by and large it's a completely novice set of people. According to the records that we've kept with license plates, with sign-in, the majority of the audience comes from an excess of 70 miles. This year the budget was approximately $20,000. In the 6 years we've run it, it's worked in the black each of the 6 years. We spent nearly every penny. We certainly could have spent every penny and much, much more.
We took a canoe ride down Raccoon Creek with Gallia Country playwright Lee Duriex to the cave that served as shelter for Daniel Boone and his companions.
The Shawnee Indians, and in the days of Daniel Boone, the frontiersmen along here, they used to bring pelts up and down this Raccoon Creek, and they could come up and down here. You couldn't even hear them dip a paddle. This is the old means of transportation they used. And as a matter of fact, it was the easiest way if you consider what the forest would be like getting through the briars and brambles and all the trees through here. And you can understand this was quite a means of easy means of transportation in their birch bark canoes. Right ahead of us here is where Daniel Boone would beach his canoes, he and Burford and Safford, Colonel Safford, and take their furs about 100 and some yards, 150 yards up to the cave where they stayed 2 winters. Well, the old timers in the early times, they called it a creek because a creek is under 100 miles. And they thought this was 96 miles long, but it's actually 136 miles. They hadn't accounted for the crooks in the river, in the body of water, which actually makes it 136 miles. But it is still the longest creek in the world. There we are. Beat her up. Got her. Now let's head for the cave. Daniel Boone Cave. Now, here we're coming. This is the old stagecoach and wagon train trail right up through here. This was the wagon train trail from Adamsville to Harrisburg, about 2 miles up. And matter of fact, the trail where John Hunt Morgan rode through here when he came through this country during the Civil War. Now, here's the way to the Daniel Boone Cave, right up this trail. Now, this cave directly ahead, the Daniel Boone Cave, is just about, I would guess 130 plus, 130 yards from Raccoon Creek. And this is where Daniel Boone, Colonel Safford, and James Burford spent 2 winters trapping here in the winters of 1791 and 1792. And this is also the home of the early Indians way back nearly 5,000 years ago, then the Adena, 450 BC, then the early and late woodland Indians. And this is, you can see the smoke places on the ceiling of the rock shelter where their campfires were to this day. It was inhabited by Daniel Boone, Colonel Safford, and James Burford in 1791, 1792. It is about 120 yards from Raccoon Creek. They stayed in this rock shelter in order to, while they were trapping beaver. They would trap about 100 beaver each winter. Now, this is my theory only, but it seems probable that they would hang deer skins over the front to keep the wintry blasts out. Then the fire from the side would keep them out, and they would snuggle over by the side. It would be warm that way. Now, that's my theory, but I would almost bet money that that's where they slept. In Colonel Safford's book and his ledger, he said that Daniel Boone had his initials and the date on here. No one found it, but one thing I did discover, there is a 1-inch rock drill right down over the ledge of that rock right up there. And that it looks just about 50 or 60 years old. Now, why would anybody come back and take a rock drill and take a piece of rock off this cave unless that were the initials? And it's just about the right height where he could stand and make his initials. Now, they can't prove it, but it's a pretty good bet that that's where the initials were, and somebody's got them off here years ago. While he was here at the cave, the 2 winters, his family was about 16 miles from here, over on the Point Pleasant. That's a place for the first battle of the Revolution. And his family spent the winters there running a trading post, but he stayed here. Really, come to think about it, he was a pathfinder for this country, but he was kind of a runabout. He was kind of a bum. He was a vagabond, yes. He never stayed home.